Hello, and welcome to Citizen Pete, the new and improved Citizen Pete. We're here live. I've been working on getting the channel to be a live stream for the last couple weeks. It's been quite a bit of challenges. I've had to actually buy a whole new computer to get this whole set up. I do video production for as my main gig, so this is kind of like a side fun kind of thing. But I really wanted to get into live streaming, and this was a perfect opportunity to do it. So here I am, live for the first time. This is gonna be interesting for me and for you. I hope you just kind of bear with me. I'm sure there will be a couple mistakes here and there along the way, but it's you gotta start somewhere. You gotta get started somewhere. Tonight it is around 1:30 in the morning, and I'm gonna talk some politics, and I am drinking a rye whiskey called Slow and Low. If you have never tried it before, check it out. It is definitely worth the it's like $20 a bottle or so, but there's nothing like it. Just like there's nothing like going live for the first time, especially nowadays. It's been a lot been going on in politics nowadays, and it's been a bummer to be off for so long, and I'm excited to be back. So, the first story I wanted to talk about is the passing of the great Ruth Bader Ginsburg. The impact that RBG has had on American society is really hard to state. I mean, she is just such an icon for everything that she's done for women in America. And the biggest thing that she's done, like her crowning achievement, is getting people to realize that women's rights are humans' rights. That by women not having the same rights as men, that that's half the population that isn't getting ahead. And so she's gotten people to realize that by not providing the rights to women, it's really hurting our overall society. And it really was a huge achievement. I mean, if you follow her career, like, she has really been a game changer, and her impact on American society it's really hard to put it into words. When I first heard she passed, I was just shocked. I knew her health wasn't that great. I know she's fighting pancreatic cancer, and it was just it's one of those weird things. Things were maybe not looking so good, but it was still shocking when it happened to me. Because it's just she fought things for so long. You just kind of didn't think it was ever, we're all gonna go, but you never thought that, it's definitely shocking. But the thing is, about her, and it's very sad, the political kind of environment that we lived in, because it wasn't 30 minutes until after she passed that I saw another alert from AP about Mitch McConnell saying that they were going to fill her seat as soon as possible, which I kind of miss the old days where people got the respect they deserved for at least a little bit of time. But I guess this is the political climate we're in now, and so that's the big question now, is who's going to take her seat? Who is going to fill that other spot on the Supreme Court? And there's been a lot of people calling her heroes on both sides of the aisle. Biden put out a great statement about her. Trump actually has put out a great statement about her. Says some very, very nice things about her. Renowned for her brilliant mind and her powerful dissents on the Supreme Court. And there's been bipartisan love for RBG across both sides of the aisle. But the thing is, you got to ask yourself, what was she actually fighting against? Everyone talks about all the legal battles and everything, but what was she fighting against? And that was she was fighting against the control of women, right? She was fighting for women's rights. She was fighting to make sure women had a place in society, had a place in work, and you know, she was making sure that, you know, women had the rights that they deserve. And so you have a lot of folks on the right now who are, you know, calling her a hero. Well, they have, honestly, for the last couple of weeks, it seems like they've been kind of waiting for the day, waiting for her passing. For the last couple of weeks, they've been floating out like Ted Cruz is a potential Supreme Court nominee. They've thrown out Tom Cotton, which would be an absolute disaster. But, you know, as much as they want to call her a hero, you know, if you're looking to destroy everything that she stood for, how much do you really think she's a hero? Just my opinion. And I have a feeling that folks on the right saw this coming and have been waiting for it and have been looking out for it, because they are absolutely ready and prepared to replace her. Today's Monday, and Trump is talking about floating out his pick on Friday or Saturday. So, you know, it seems like he's been looking at this for a long time. And it's unfortunate that when I have seen this, you know, some remarks from Trump's base, I've seen a lot of people say, you know, finally, like she's finally gone, which, you know, just kind of sums up the difference in, you know, the politics of nowadays. That you have someone who has fought so hard for everyone. I mean, whether you agree with her politics or not, she has benefited you in some way. If you're a single mother out, you know, if your mom was a single mother out there, you know, she's helped you. If your wife out there has a job out there, she's helped you. There are so many things that she's done, and it sucks that she's not getting the respect that she rightly deserves. But I guess that's 2020 for you, you know. And so all this, you know, with RBG passing around 47 days before the election, you know, the big question that people have here is, how is this actually going to play in the 2020 election, right? You know, how is this going to impact the race for the White House, the Senate races? And honestly, you know, I when I first saw it, I thought it was a huge win for Republicans, right? I mean, Republicans for the last couple of years, their main goal has been to pack all the courts, and for Trump to get another Supreme Court nominee was going to be a huge win for them. But now that I've had a little bit of time to digest it and kind of look at things going on, this might be one of the worst possible things to happen for Republicans right before the election. You know, like this might not work out so well for them. But yeah, just wait a couple minutes. I'll explain that to you. So I don't think we're actually going to get a vote before the election. I think we're, you know, that just seems too soon. And honestly, you know, when you look at a lot of the decisions that Mitch McConnell makes, he's a very cautious person, right? And so a vote before the election would be just too risky. What they're going to do is they're going to hold hearings. Now, these hearings, they're going to pick someone to nominate, and they're going to hold hearings on this nominee. Now, these hearings are going to energize the Trump base, right? They're going to get excited about this nominee. At least that's what the Republicans' hopes are. And then whatever happens on election day, what'll probably end up happening, you know, if Trump wins, then obviously they'll go around the process, confirm the nominee, and they'll join the Supreme Court. Now, if Trump loses, then they'll probably do it anyway, before Joe Biden would essentially take over in January in the lame duck session. And while this might seem like a huge win for Republicans and conservatives to get someone packed in the Supreme Court, the thing is that, you know, their big goal is obviously repealing Roe versus Wade. I mean, that's something that they really care about, and that's something that's really big for conservatives about the Supreme Court. The thing is, those voters are already voting Republican. It's the swing voters that they're always kind of going for in this election. And the problem is, a lot of those swing voters actually support Roe versus Wade. There was a recent study that looked at that got people's opinion on Roe versus Wade, And they found that, there are people, Americans have a lot of different opinions about the restrictions on abortion. Some want more, some want less. There's certain debate over the amount of weeks before you can have a fetus aborted, all that kind of stuff. But in general, the actual women's right to have an abortion enjoys widespread support. I mean, we're talking like high 70% of Americans support women's right just in general to an abortion. So the idea that this Roe versus Wade battle is going to be a huge win for Republicans, I'm just not sure that's exactly what's going to happen. And what Republicans really want, and what Trump really wants, is to use this to move on from the discussion about the coronavirus. They want, they obviously know, I mean, they're not dumb. They know that the coronavirus is not a win for Trump. They know that over the past couple of months, we've had, record unemployment. We've had the economy has just crashed. We just passed 200,000 deaths. The coronavirus is not something they want to talk about. And so having this, they feel like, okay, this is something else we can talk about. This could be, the October surprise, even though it's a little bit early, to help Trump in the election. But the problem is, people care a lot about, social issues, but, there's that old saying, it's the economy, stupid. People really care about how things are going to impact them and their wallets, their checkbooks. And so as much as this is going to be a big thing for a lot of people, I think it might actually end up energizing the Democrats more than it will the Republicans. I mean, there's a lot of Republicans out there that hate Roe versus Wade, but they're really willing to, go all out for that when, the economy has hit people, very hard. And so for the Democrats, this has definitely fired up their base. They have, they're basically pulling out all the options here. And what they're saying is that there are no options off the table here. And there's a couple of things Democrats can still do. They don't have the votes to actually stop this. But in case you haven't noticed, the government is running out of money. And by October, I believe it's October 1st or October 3rd, the government will shut down unless there is a new funding bill. Now, this bill was stalled because Trump had promised $30 billion to farmers. And, Democrats were like, that's just total politics. You're trying to give them a political favor to get votes before the election. But Democrats were okay. We'll play ball. We'll give you some money for farmers, but we want $2 billion for school children who need nutritional assistance for lunches and stuff like that. And Republicans were like, we're school children. We don't want to help school children. We're not doing that. And so that's kind of stalled. Now that this has happened, there's some talk on the left about, should we shut down the government over this? Should we hold that hostage, for future negotiations? For her part, Nancy Pelosi actually came out today and said that they will not shut down the government over the Supreme Court pick. But it seems like the energy on the left is getting, more and more fervent over this. So that's a potential possibility there. What's more likely is that they try to convince vulnerable senators on the right to refuse to vote on a new Supreme Court nominee before the election. Now, Lisa Murkowski and Susan Collins of Alaska and Maine, respectively, have both said that they will not vote on a Supreme Court nominee before the election. And, that's definitely a good sign for Democrats. Because now they really only need one or two more to possibly move on from that. And Mitt Romney has so far been silent on the issue. He hasn't really discussed it so far. And so he might be out on what his support could or couldn't be. Lindsey Graham, who has famously said he would not vote before the election, has said that, he's kind of just given up on that. And so he's kind of, said he's going to just vote anyway, which is the definition of a hypocrisy. But anyway, there's other senators out there. Cory Gardner's a possibility. He could maybe decide not to vote because he's in Colorado. Colorado is traditionally a Democratic state. And so, he's kind of vulnerable there. So there's a couple of senators that the Democrats could maybe get on their side. But honestly, that strategy didn't really work out good during impeachment. So, why would it work out now? The big thing that Democrats could do about this isn't even before the election. It's after the election. So if you've been paying attention to to what's going on in Congress for the last couple of years, you've noticed that they've been pretty dysfunctional on some things, but they have been extremely effective on packing the courts. I think there's been more conservative judges added to federal courts, federal benches around the country over the last 4 years than there have in any presidency in the history of the country. Mitch McConnell is very proud of this fact. He knows that, and a lot of Republicans know that their kind of conservative ideology is fading out. They know that that people are kind of moving more of a liberal sense anyway. And so he's kind of playing the long game on this. And the long game is trying to get as many judges to the courts on lifetime appointments as possible. And, they've been very successful in that. Like, very successful in that. You gotta give credit where credit's due. And so with this and Democrats saying that nothing is off the table, what they're really talking about is Mitch McConnell's worst fear. And that would be packing the Supreme Court. So right now the Supreme Court has 9 justices on it. Technically 8 with RBG's passing. So there's 8 judges on there, excuse me. And so the idea is that if Democrats got enough power, they would add more justices to the Supreme Court. Because if Trump gets his pick, right, then the Supreme Court will have a conservative balance 6-3. That's 6 conservative justices, 3, liberal or Democrat-supported justices. And so, the idea is that, okay, if a Democrat becomes president and has control of the House and the Senate, then they'll just add more judges, and maybe it'll become, a 13-member Supreme Court, and you'll have more on the Democrat side. And that's kind of like the nuclear option. I've heard it's called the Armageddon option. And so we'll see with that. I mean, that's kind of a long shot at this point, but crazier things have happened. And it's interesting that Joe Biden's actually come out against this, and there's some other prominent Democrats that have come out against this, because what it would really do is it would be another institution that has fallen to partisan politics, right? Which is kind of a bad thing for all of us. I care very much about the Supreme Court, just like I care about, other American institutions like the CDC, the FBI, the Justice Department, all these kind of things that over the last couple of years have been called into question, right? Their impartiality has been called into question. The CDC puts out new guidelines on COVID, and you have to wonder, are these Trump's guidelines? Have these been messed with? And so what this really could mean is the Supreme Court going, fully partisan, which would be a bad thing and kind of undermines the rule of law in this country. And so that could be where we end up. But bottom line on this is Trump is probably going to get his pick. I mean, Democrats can organize, they can be out in the streets, they can, raise money, they can fight this in any way that they can possibly think of. But the fact of the matter is, Trump has the raw power to get this done, and he's probably going to do it. I mean, Whether he wins or loses it in November, if he wins, then obviously he's gonna put his pick in. If he loses, then it becomes a lame duck section, and he's gonna get his pick in anyway. So bottom line is, we're gonna be looking at a 6-3 split on the Supreme Court, and so we're just gonna have to see what happens after the election, after Inauguration Day, and see how that all plays out. But that is how that cookie crumbles. Now, a big question is, who's the pick for the Supreme Court? You know, who is gonna take over that coveted seat by RBG? And right now, the leading contender is Judge Amy Coney Barrett. Now, Amy is she's the top contender. She's only 48 years old. Now, I'm 31, so 48 sounds old to me. But if you're getting a lifetime appointment to the Supreme Court, 48 is not old at all. Now, Amy has only served 3 years on the as a federal judge. Not knocking that, but she's only appointed in 2017, so she's only had 3 years in that position. Now, for the long time, she served as a professor at Notre Dame, and is a very strong Catholic. And she's actually been attacked on her religion. Asked how impartial she could be, which honestly, I don't think that's fair to attack her on her religion. She has said that she will be independent of that, that she will not impose her religious views on what's right or wrong for the country. What she has said, and everything that she seems to be, is that she's a constitutional. Excuse me. There's a lot to say. She's a conservative constitutionalist. Conservative constitutionalist. Now you might be asking what that actually means. And that means that you have a very strict interpretation of the Constitution. That means that you believe that the Constitution should be interpreted by what the words actually say on the paper, versus others who are kind of look at the Constitution as more of a living document, right? What's the actual intent here? What is the actual thought behind this? You kind of look at things like all men are created equal. Well, did they mean specifically all men, or did they mean, all people are created equal? It kind of gets in a little bit of the weeds there. But for her main appeal for Trump, is that it's been reported, and it's my understanding, that she is willing to ignore constitutional norms and issue new and not look at the past precedents on new rulings. So how the Supreme Court typically operates, right, is that they look at past rulings on major issues to determine what their ruling is going to be now. And so they look at precedents that have been set in the past, and those precedents become decided, essentially, you can maybe call it constitutional law, right? But those precedents are pretty set in stone. But what Amy has said is that she won't look to those precedents to making future decisions. For example, if something came up about abortion and there was a decision to be made that could essentially nullify Roe versus Wade, she would make that decision. She would go for that. Whereas other justices would say, okay, Roe has set this precedent. We can't go against that precedent because Roe has set that. She says she's not worried about that. And that's kind of what Trump does. Trump, he picks out justices based on things that appeal directly to him. One of the things that got Brett Kavanaugh in the position he's in now is because he actually wrote an op-ed where he wrote that a sitting president couldn't be indicted. When Trump heard that, he was like, that is my guy, right? And so the thing with not listening to precedents, what this really means for you and I, is that really everything could be could be up for grabs here, right? Roe versus Wade is obviously something that is in jeopardy. gay marriage is something that could be in jeopardy. I mean, if you're willing to throw out other precedents, then there really isn't a whole lot that's safe. And so, I don't want to scare you. I don't want to be, in a fear mongering, but the stakes are very real with this whole Supreme Court situation. With a 6-3 split on the Supreme Court, for things to get over that, it would take a more of a threshold than you can get in the Senate now. And so what this really means is that, one branch of government could really have a lot of power over the other two branches of government for a long time. Even the Democrats' Armageddon option, if you will, of adding more members to the Supreme Court would require quite a bit of votes in Congress to do so. You would need a Democratic Senate, a House, and the presidency, which is what we might get with Biden, might not get, but it's also not clear if we'll pass that vote threshold. So, this could be very serious for Democratic hopes going forward. So on to a different topic now. And this is something I've been asked quite a bit. Something that, is just kind of baffling to a lot of people, and something that has, has just floated around for a while. And that is, why are people still supporting Donald Trump? It has been an interesting 4 years under Trump. It has been, we've had, there's so many things. Like, it is hard to really think about all the things that have gone on under Trump. I mean, and that's by design. The last 4 years have been chaos, and they've actually been designed chaos, in my opinion. A lot of folks talk about, with Trump in the media, and, on the Trump side, it's like, oh, the media is always attacking him. And, on the other side, media, Trump's always attacking the media. But really, this has all been done by design. Trump's very good at manipulating the media. So, it's just been a chaotic 4 years. It's been a lot. And so a lot of people have this question of, why are you still supporting Trump? Like, after everything that we've gone through. I mean, just in 2020, global pandemic, stock market falling apart, record unemployment, 200,000 Americans dead. I mean, the coronavirus is the third leading cause of death in the United States. Things don't seem so good. So you have to wonder, why are people, still voting for Trump? And I think there's a couple reasons. The first is a very human one. And that's that people don't want to be wrong about their vote in 2016, right? Like, people don't want to admit that they're wrong. I mean, admitting you're wrong is hard. Admitting you made a mistake is hard. I've heard from a lot of folks who supported Trump in 2016 that have admitted they made a mistake, and this wasn't the right choice, and they wish they did something different. But that's a hard realization to come to. Especially, with Trump being able to control the narrative, right? Like, he has been great at manipulating the media. And so what he's done over the last couple of years is that, he's called things fake news from the beginning, right? And so you have half the population that believes Trump, right? They believe what Trump is saying. They say that there's just fake news. These liberals on the left, they're just making all this fake stuff up about him. And then on, that's what they think on the right. And then on the left, everyone thinks Trump is a total liar and just, kind of making stuff up all the time, which, yes, he does lie a lot. That is the truth. But the fact of the matter is, he has divided people so much that a lot of people just don't know, what's true anymore. And that allows him to create his own narrative, and people are following that. Another thing that I think is very pivotal to Trump being able to maintain his support is that, it's not just about him, right? there's a lot more going on here. And, honestly, it started way before Trump got into politics.
Are you prepared to take the oath, Senator?
I am.
I, Barack Hussein Obama, solemnly swear
I, Barack Hussein Obama, do solemnly swear
that I will execute the office of President to the United States faithfully,
that I will execute
the office of President of the United
office of President of the
States,
United States faithfully,
and will, to the best of my ability,
and will, to the best of my ability,
preserve, protect, and defend the Constitution of the United States.
preserve, protect, and defend the Constitution of the United States.
So help you God.
So help me God.
Congratulations, Mr. President.
There you go. That was a great moment there. It was a little, little shaky on the handoff there, right? I get it. There's a lot of nerves when you're about to become the 44th president of the United States. But the reason I bring that clip up is that when Obama took office and he ran on this position of change, and he did a lot of change, and I do think he was a great president. But the country changed so much when Obama was president, right? I mean, listen to this. This is Obama talking about gay marriage back in the day.
At this point, what I've said is that my baseline is a strong civil union that provides them the protections and the legal rights that married couples have, and I think that, and I think that's the right thing to do. But I recognize that from their perspective, it is not enough. And I think this is something that we're going to continue to debate, and I personally am going to continue to wrestle with going forward.
But the military does not recognize
I understand.
right?
And as I said, this is going to be an issue that is not unique to the military. This is an issue that extends to all of our society, and I think we're all going to have a conversation about it.
Yes, President Obama, at the beginning of his term, wasn't ready to come out in full-fledged support of gay marriage. At the time, it was still something that people were still figuring out. It was something that, it unfortunately didn't kind of get the level of support that it has nowadays. And, you fast forward to a couple years, and the White House, it looked like... And so what I'm really trying to say is that Obama's election gave rise to change in the country. It gave rise to a lot of, social, a lot of social change in the country. And it gave rise to the Tea Party, which has essentially become the Trump supporters nowadays. Now, of course, this is not Obama's fault. This is not a blame thing when it comes to him. But what I'm trying to say is that, the country changed a lot in the 8 years under Obama's term. And so a lot of Trump support isn't really about Trump. It's about a pushback over that change. It's about trying to, trying to push back over the cancel culture we have nowadays. It's pushing back over socialism. Talk of socialism on the left, on the progressive side. So it's not really Trump versus Biden, right? It's Trump versus socialism. It's Trump versus globalism. It's Trump versus equality. It's Trump versus liberals, which is a big thing. A lot of the folks on the right, they just want to, they just want to own the libs, right? They just want to cancel the libs. They just want to shut down liberal or left-leaning type people. And that's this base, right? That's who his supporters are. I'm like, I don't know, I'm trying to what does this lady have on her face? But yeah, these are the people supporting Trump, right? And yes, they're supporting Trump because they like Trump, but they're also supporting Trump because they hate change, right? They're tired of, feeling like they are, on the outside for believing the things that they believe, for thinking the things that they think. And so it's less about Trump, and it's more about trying to turn the clock back to the way things were when you could be racist, or you could joke about racism, or you could say horrible things and people wouldn't, call you a racist, or it's an anti-intellectualism. It's a trying to go back to the past, how things were. And there's a lot of people that has a lot of appeal to, especially economically. I think that's another thing that I have to mention here that I kind of forgot to put in my notes there. But, because, the world is changing and the economy is changing, and then the nature of work is changing, that, people don't want that, right? Like, I remember, back in 2016, people talked about what Hillary's economic plan was, right? And Hillary, to her credit, told people what they didn't want to hear, but what the truth was. And the truth was that, like, for example, if you're a coal miner in West Virginia, right? You've been doing coal your whole life. Coal is your whole thing. You didn't want to hear Hillary Clinton tell you, okay, we're going to train you for this, new green job, or we're going to give you, new training or something like that, or there's other jobs out there for you. Which, that's what you really needed to hear. That was the truth. Now, Trump comes in and says, hey, we're going to save all those coal jobs. We're going to save coal country. When any economist will tell you the reason why there's no coal jobs anymore is because people don't want to use coal. It's inefficient. It's dirty. It's expensive. I mean, it's just economics that have killed the coal industry. But if you're a voter in West Virginia and you hear one person say, hey, we're bringing those jobs back for you, well, you're gonna ride with that person. You don't want to hear the other side, even if it's the truth. And speaking of the truth, that's something that is unfortunately very rare these days, as we enter a new wave of COVID disinformation. Now, I don't know about you, but I miss the good old days of crazy folks on YouTube or other outlets talking about the coronavirus, and that was just so much easier to look out for, right? That was just so much easier to keep an eye on. Like these two guys, right? These are the clinic owners in Bakersfield, California, who kind of went viral after throwing out their opinions of the virus. Definitely got debunked. But you kind of missed that those were the good old days. Things even got a little bit crazier when, sorry, wrong button there. Again, first time, live show, wrong button, things are going to happen. But yeah, things got a little bit crazier when Dr. Emanuel came on the scene. Again, she's the person that really was very, very high on hydroxychloroquine. Also, she's very big on alien DNA, demon sperm, which, if you are having gynecological problems, that's the demon sperm working in there. And another one that kind of flew under the radar here is that Steve Bannon, good old Steve Bannon, had someone who was that was an expert on the coronavirus and said, oh, the coronavirus, it came from China. It was released specifically from a lab to, destroy the American economy. I'm mixing some words up there. Turns out she worked for Steve Bannon. And yeah, that just kind of messes up your credibility there just a little bit. Unfortunately, all of this misinformation is now affecting places where it really counts. And namely, I'm talking about the CDC and the FDA. So recently, a CDC commissioner was asked to testify before Congress, and this is what he said.
These face masks are the most important, powerful public health tool we have. We have clear scientific evidence they work. and they are our best defense. I might even go so far as to say that this face mask is more guaranteed to protect me against COVID than when I take a COVID vaccine, because the immunogenicity may be 70%. And if I don't get an immune response, the vaccine's not going to protect me. This face mask will.
Yep, he seemed pretty adamant about face masks there, right? Did not seem to be mincing his words, didn't seem confused. He seems to be a big fan of the face masks, which, honestly, I hate the face masks. The face masks are horrible. But I definitely agree with their medical effectiveness when fighting COVID. Now, President Trump had a slightly different take on.
As far as the mask is concerned, he made a mistake.
But on the masks, I mean, perhaps they are part of the role for the decrease in cases because they are effective, as you just said. So I know you've wanted.
No, they may be effective.
And there you have it. So Trump immediately, stepped over the CDC director and said that he made a mistake. It was just an innocent mistake. At the same time, he's also blocking the FDA commissioner from even testifying. Now, reportedly, FDA was going to talk about the effectiveness of a COVID vaccine that is supposedly supposed to come out right before the election, right? Which, if you were excited to take that when it came out, you might think again after they blocked the FDA commissioner, whose job it is to make sure it's safe, from even talking in front of Congress. And so the real shame of all this is that it makes it harder to believe anything, right? I mean, the CDC was the golden standard before all this. It was, and not just here in America, around the world. People look to the CDC for information or for guidance on things. And it's another one of these great American institutions that have been undermined when we needed them the most. Same thing with the FDA, right? I mean, the FDA has a lot of clout with people. People would read things and say, okay, it's FDA certified. And that was the main power that they had, right? That the FDA looked at this and thought it was safe. And there, early on in the pandemic, people wanted the FDA to make it easier to get tests and things on the market. Well, it turns out those tests were completely bogus. They were shit. They didn't work out good at all, and now we're living in this world where you can't really believe anyone, and that's really hard in the middle of a pandemic where you just don't know who to believe. The CDC has been undermined by Trump and his administration. And so it's hard to look at things coming out of there and feel secure about that information. Same thing with the FDA. They're obviously trying to rush through this vaccine, and that's a problem. That is something that definitely undermines the public health there. I don't know. I felt pretty good about the vaccine. I thought the vaccine was going to be something that I was going to be excited to take. I was going to be excited to try out. That is until I talked to my dad. And my dad, like me, is a huge movie buff. And my dad mentioned a little movie called I Am Legend. Now, he wasn't talking about the original one, the black and white from back in the day. Great film if you ever get a chance to check it out. He was talking about the Will Smith I Am Legend that he starred in. It was a great film. It was a great movie. And if you remember this, and I had actually forgotten this fact, but in I Am Legend, the world essentially reverts to zombies, right? And the thing is, everyone took this cancer vaccine, this miracle cancer vaccine that was going to save everybody. Well, turns out it turns 90% of the population into essentially, zombie-like vampire, flesh-eating monsters. And but everyone thought it was safe at the time. So if you're going to take that vaccine, when it comes out later this month or right before the election, hopefully it becomes zombie. It's good stuff there. Good stuff there. All right, so this brings me to the last story on this live version of Citizen Pete. And that is something that I want to talk about, a little rumor that I've heard, right? There's a little rumor going around. Rumors can just be so much fun. And the rumor is that, Joe Biden will be elected to the presidency, and then he'll step down, and it will be Kamala Harris running the show.
Harris-Biden administration is going to relaunch that effort and keep pushing further to make it easier for military spouses and veterans to find meaningful careers, to ensure teachers know how to support military children in their classrooms, and to improve support for caregivers and survivors, so much more than we do now.
Now, the shame of that clip is that, Biden is talking about something to help out the families of service members. And the thing that goes viral is the fact that he says Harris-Biden administration, right? He messes up the names there. He says Harris-Biden administration. We can listen to it again real quick one more time.
Harris-Biden administration is going to relaunch that effort and keep...
Yep, there you go. And this is obviously a gaffe from Joe Biden. He is kind of famous from. But this is actually something that a rumor that the Trump campaign has been pushing for a little bit, right? So they've been trying to push Joe Biden and present him as this radical leftist. And I think most people look at, Joe Biden is not an unknown figure in American politics, right? Joe Biden has been in American politics for like 40 years. Which is a long time. So it's hard to change the narrative around them, right? Now, Kamala Harris, for a lot of folks, especially on the conservative side, she's more of an unknown, right? And so they can paint her as more of a radical agent, someone who's, especially during this, Black Lives Matter, the protests that are going on, which has been a big rallying cry for the Trump administration to, stop these protests and this whole law and order kind of thing. And so if they can paint Kamala Harris as the radical here, down with the BLM movement, down with the protests, down with the looting, down with the rioting, and say that she's going to become president, that is just them trying to strike the fear into the hearts of middle America. And so for me, I think that's where a lot of this comes from. It is a fact that Joe Biden is a little old and a little out of lockstep with his party. I think, not a lot of folks are talking about this, and he has some great ideas, but, it'll be a dogfight, to get Trump out of office. But then when if Joe Biden does win and he takes over in January as the 46th president of the United States, he's going to face quite a bit of, it's going to be an interesting time for good old Joe because, the Democratic Party, there's a progressive wing that wants a certain amount of things, so it might be interesting for him to govern. But when you look at the primaries, like Joe won because he's the best candidate to beat Donald Trump, right? For a lot of the folks on the Democratic side and the moderates and the folks around the country, they're not voting for Joe Biden, right? They're voting against Donald Trump. And when you look at the potential matchups, and Joe Biden was my first choice, right? I liked the other candidates. Elizabeth Warren, I loved her. Pete Buttigieg was a favorite of mine. But bottom line, when you look at the polling versus Trump, and Biden beats everyone by a large margin, and I don't think that's surprising, right? Like Biden is for a lot of people, he represents a return to normalcy. Right? I remember a time when whatever the president didn't lead like the national news, right? And so, a lot of folks were you know, people are just tired of that chaos. People are just tired of the chaos of the last 4 years, right? And so I honestly, you know, even though there's been a lot of debate about before in the primaries when Bernie was essentially forced to step down because, you know, Amy Klobuchar dropped out of the race. Pete Buttigieg dropped out of the race. So Biden was able to coalesce that support and basically take over the nomination. It was kind of a, you know, some people are still a little salty over that move, but it was a nice move by Democrats by playing politics for once. You know, Republicans, unfortunately, they always beat Democrats at this, right? Democrats want to run the right honorable way, and it always seems like Republicans are just gonna, you know, win it no matter what the cost is, right? They'll support Trump even though he says horrible things. I mean, it was a week or two before the election he talked about sexually assaulting women, but they still supported him, right? Democrats, they've always needed to be inspired by someone. They've always needed to be, you know, really to believe in someone to vote for him. And, you know, in this case, we'll see how it pans out in November, but it's good that the Democrats kind of tried to do what's best for them politically. But anyway, back to my original question. Sorry, I got caught on a little tangent there. But this whole gaffe, that's not the first time Joe Biden has said something, you know, a little dumb. Like the whole if you're not black if you're not voting for Joe Biden. But before you rush to judgment here, I want to, you know, see if you remember this.
Join me in welcoming the next president of the United States, Paul Ryan.
Oops. So that was Mitt Romney back in 2012 when he was running against Barack Obama, introducing his vice president, Paul Ryan. Now, you may have forgot about good old Paul, but at one point he was the shining future star of the Republican Party. He was, you know, the future candidate to take over and become president. At least that's what everyone thought back in the day. Things have changed quite a bit since 2012. And that's the thing, though. I mean, it was the same kind of thing back then as now, where, you know, there was a lot more excitement about the vice president than maybe there was the president. And so, you know, the truth is, no one knows but Biden himself whether or not he'll be able to carry out the 4 years of his term. You know, I'll be honest, he doesn't look great. It seems like the years have taken a little bit of a toll on him. And if he actually does become president, that takes quite a bit of toll itself. I mean, when you look at Barack Obama, from when he started, when he was kind of a younger president, to when he got out, he looked like he aged like 20 years. Same thing, George Bush. You see Trump, he doesn't seem like he's aged at all, but that's because he's not really doing the job. But it's unlikely that Joe Biden is going to be the standard bearer for the Democratic Party in 2024. And even between now and then, it seems to me that it might be a little bit unlikely that he will really be the leading voice for the Democratic Party. You look at the Republican Party, and especially the Republican platform, and it really is a Trump platform. It's what Trump wants to do. And you look at the Democrats, and they actually have a party platform that was really influenced by Bernie Sanders on what, you know, he sees for the future of the party, which I agree a lot with a lot of his agenda. But what I'm really trying to say here is that, you know, in 2020, or I should say 2021, you know, if Joe Biden wins the election, it's kind of an open question on what his presidency is actually going to look like. Most people really only care that it's not going to be Donald Trump. And if he does actually become president, it's going to be very interesting. And I do wonder how much Joe Biden is really going to be able to command the room, even though he is the president of the United States. And so I don't think it's totally out of the question that, you know, Kamala Harris could theoretically take over and become president. But that is definitely one thing that We're just gonna have to wait and see. Well, that's a wrap for me, y'all. It has been a fun time with you guys. First live episode of the show. You know, I'll definitely drink to that. Just even watching it myself, I've got a couple monitors here. There's some things to work on. Some graphics didn't work out as well as I'd planned, but hey, you know, that's the first one for you, right? You got to get started somewhere. But I do thank you guys for hanging in with me. I haven't posted like a full-on video for like a month, and I realized I've only lost like 1 or 2 subscribers, which is pretty nice. I appreciate that y'all are you know, still riding with me. So thanks so much, and yeah, Citizen Pete Live is it's gonna be a thing. I'll be back, and you know, I hope you're back too. So thanks again, y'all. Take it easy.